Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and I am joined today by the owner, the operator of Fantasy Guides and FantasyGuides.com, Stephen Rippey, as well as fellow Fantasy Guides contributor, Jacob Rhodes. And today, we're a week in, and we're going to start talking about the buys and sells because I absolutely guarantee you are panicking about someone on your starting lineup, your bench, somewhere. And you're saying, this dude stinks, what do I do? Or maybe even you know that some guy on your team way overperformed what they were supposed to, and you're ready to ship them off. And we might agree with you, we might not agree with you. We might say hold on some of these. We're going to get into buys and sells. Steven, Jacob, and myself will each give one buy, one sell, and get you guys well on your way to winning your fantasy leagues early on. These early season trades are huge. Steven, you ready?
I am 3-0, 3-0, and I downsized a bit on my league, so hopefully I'm doing better this year, not being in like 6 of them.
That was a big shift for me as well. Jacob, how are your leagues going? I know you're commissioner of most of them.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah, I'm 2-1, but one is an intentional rebuild in a dynasty league, so that's going exactly as planned.
Excellent. I think 3 is a beautiful number. It's kind of perfect. Just to housekeeping, getting into it. Remember, multiple pods each week. We have every week our Tuesdays buy sells, our Thursday start sits, which you'll probably hear it on Friday. It drops Thursday at midnight. And then you'll get the instant reactions on Mondays. First, let's clean up some news real quick. Puka Nacua injury just got placed on the IR after some Sunday night football and an incredible game. It was initially assumed that it was something with that bursa sac on his knee. It turns out it's more of a PCL injury, lands him on the IR. Everything I'm seeing is this is actually very concerning. The PTs, the MDs on Instagram who follow fantasy say this is a no-no. He could come back. There is that percent chance he comes back and he's fine. He's a freak. He might. But this is a do not buy the injury dip. Leave it alone. If you want to hold, do your thing. But do not buy an injury dip on that one. You guys disagree on anything there?
No, probably no, I don't think so. I am going to do, starting this week, a collaboration with Fantasy Docs and Sports Med Analytics.
Those guys are incredible.
Yeah, so I haven't talked to them yet, but we're going to put that out, I think, every Saturday, probably, Friday or Saturday. So I will get some more information for what they think, if they think he's a buy or a sell. But generally, I don't like having injured players. And if I can get something good, I think Jacob mentioned a couple of good wide receivers before we jumped on. But yeah, if I could get something good for him, I don't like having injured players.
Yeah, you gotta start winning your weeks early. You want to actually make the playoffs. So you can have a chance at winning your league. But it's the same knee he had the issue with this offseason that started dropping him down in ADP a little bit. And what do you know? Here we are, week 1. It's hurt again.
And I think for the offense, Cooper Kupp looked incredible. I think Puka left so early in that game. I think you can expect him to do what he did in that game almost every game. Absolutely.
Well, I mean,
not exactly that. It won't be
21 targets. But to your point, I think we will see some old Cooper Kupp.
Exactly.
He looks good. He looks really good.
But my concerns were age, cliff, a little bit, injury concerns. I think that still exists to some extent. But Puka was the big concern there. And there's no Puka, I have a lot less concerns. If you were to tell me Puka was gonna miss the first 4 weeks of the season, where would we be drafting Kupp? As wide receiver 1, I would think.
Yep. It's the same offense that he was in when he was the wide receiver 1 winning the Triple Crown. So Cooper Kupp up, Colby Parkinson up. That's a big sleeper for me. Demarcus Robinson, check the waiver post coming out, very up. Another concern, Christian McCaffrey. We were told just fine. Don't worry about it. His calf, Achilles, whatever it is, I think it got re-aggravated later, maybe. I don't know. We were told, do not worry. I have the sleeper auto sub thing. Didn't even set it. I was so fine for Monday Night Football. Lo and behold, he did not play. And rumor is they knew on Friday, allegedly was told by Jordan Mason that he was not going to play. So this isn't some sort of last second, we'll beat the Jets by 1 million decision. This is concerning. He's likely out week 2 from everything I'm seeing because his lack of practice. He hadn't practiced a single day leading up to all of this, completely out in the preseason. This is concerning. He'll be back eventually. Re-injury risk is very high on this. Jacob, just briefly, how are you reacting to this news? Are you still holding? Or are you trying to get rid of CMC?
I drafted Jordan Mason and was able to start him, so I'm not overly concerned. Jordan Mason looks like a clear plug-and-play RB1 while CMC's out. I'd rather he gets fully healthy than tries to rush it back, and you're playing a guy that only plays a quarter and a half or something and then goes out hurt again. So I'm kind of hoping he misses week 2, honestly, at this point, and just is fully healthy by week 3, and we can see him for the rest of the season. But for all you injury-prone CMC guys, that's the first game he's missed due to injury since 2021, so relax.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things where they're going to play it extremely safe with him because they know how valuable he is to the team. So I don't think he's going to come back until he's fully healthy. So if you have him, you don't want him coming back this week. If he's not 100%, you don't want him re-aggravating it. So, they got Minnesota, then the Rams, and the Patriots coming up. I mean, I'd love to use him for those games, but I think you just got to. I'm not looking to sell him necessarily. I'm just hoping I can get. Would you guys trade for Mason? If somebody in your league already has him,
if I have CMC,
if you have McCaffrey, yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah, CMC, yeah, because
Jordan Mason looked really good.
I think that's what I would try to do. I would try to get unless you've got running backs you can plug in front of CMC right now while he's injured. I would just try a cheap option like that. Try to get someone like that, and just kind of wait it out.
Yeah, I will say Mason looked good enough that I'm concerned that McCaffrey's snap percentage is a little lower this year than it was last year.
I did think he looked good as well. Yes.
I thought CMC also looked good. I thought Jordan Mason looked really good last year. I was shocked he wasn't getting more. I was concerned. It's CMC's backfield. I'm not concerned. If I have Jordan Mason, if someone will pay a pretty penny for him and I don't have CMC, I'm shipping him off, sell high. I think he's fool's gold on the waiver wire this week. Unless you have CMC, do not pay up for Jordan Mason is my opinion. Moving us briefly into Justin Fields. Started week 1 kind of as a surprise. Again, downplayed an injury. I think we were pretty on top of it. We kind of called BS on it. So did a lot of the fantasy meds doctors. So Justin Fields looks like he is going to start again week 2. At least they're preparing for it. Again, I will not overplay this. I will refuse to say, oh, now it's Justin Fields, set it and forget it. It's the same thing. It's Mike Tomlin. He says what he needs to in order for the media to not bug him. So he's going to now let Russ play out this injury thing. Justin Fields might play on his own merits. I thought he looked good. I think this is not a bad thing for George Pickens or anyone else in the offense. Justin Fields is very much in play to start in any single matchup because he is such a running threat. Looking up who he plays next week, he gets the Denver Broncos. It's not a defense that's amazing. Won't be a high-scoring game, but he might rush in a touchdown. Steven, any quick thoughts on Mr. Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson or this Pittsburgh Steelers offense?
I just hope I'm torn here because I wanted to see the Broncos go up against Russell Wilson, so I'm bummed that he's not playing in this one. And
the NFL wanted to see that too.
I also want to see Justin Fields starting, not Russell Wilson. I'd like to see. I think he's more fun for fantasy. So, if he wasn't playing the Broncos, I'd love for him to have a good game and do enough to get more starts. I do think they'll go back to Russell Wilson, especially if Fields doesn't do something. He did not look all that great last week. I'm not confident he's going to look great this week, but he's more fun for fantasy. I hope at some point he becomes a starter.
I would be benching every Pittsburgh Steeler I have this week if I can. Pickens is the only guy I would really want to start, but I'm not starting him against Pat Surtain. So
yeah, he's not going to.
Maybe Najee if you're in a pinch, but
he's not going to get open against Surtain. He might catch some contested catches against Surtain because he's good at that, but he's not going to get open.
Excellent. Let's get us into these buys and sells finally then. Again, these are dudes who early on probably had some sort of slight issue getting things rolling, but we are not concerned at all. Jacob, your first buying low. This stuff, I'll just call you a homer right off the bat, but please talk me into this.
It's not a homer pick at all. I was high on him before the season. He's still got the best strength of schedule in the league at receiver, and it's Amari Cooper. He had 9 targets week 1 and 2 catches. The volume is there. He had a touchdown go through his fingers, and I won't sugarcoat it. The Browns were awful. Deshaun Watson was awful. Those 2 tackles being out was awful. He was on his back the entire game, but the volume's good. The matchups are really good, and he's a talented wide receiver. So I'm going to trust that the volume is enough to carry him, and I think you can get him for dirt cheap right now. So I think he's a buy low.
I'll agree to some extent, but Jacob, we got to admit, Deshaun Watson. I saw
they look bad.
I saw I saw a meme. I said it on the last podcast, but I saw a meme that said Deshaun Watson must have died on that massage table because
Some part of him.
this is not him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is.
Well,
Have you ever seen somebody drop off that much, like a quarterback that used to be that good? It's incredible how much he's fallen.
I can't think of one in recent memory as bad as this, but
Maybe Carson Wentz.
yeah, everyone's pushing for Jameis to start. If that happens, Cooper's even more of a buy. So
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think he's a good buy low right now. You can get him as like a wide receiver 3, I think. I think people are probably terrified to have him on their teams. He feels like a cheap buy.
Yeah, it's so scary. He was so awful. The film absolutely backs it. PFF's 19th ranked quarterback on the week. So it could be worse. I'm actually shocked that wasn't even lower than that. But they let him throw the ball 45 times, and that is not a thing we're used to with Stefanski. That's something that happened late next year. The only leeway I'll give this on Watson, and maybe there's hope for the future, is that this offense is new. They're trying it out. This is not a normal Stefanski offense. So maybe things take a tick up. It was the Cowboys defense. Maybe he has more luck against the Jaguars, who actually were a decent defense. But really, when he gets into that Giants, Raiders, Commanders, Eagles, Bengals stretch, those are all bad defenses. I could see things picking up there. So maybe even wait a week and then buy. But you're buying real low.
Njoku and Judy both got banged up in that game, and Njoku's probably going to miss a little bit of time. And not sure about Judy yet, but they both got banged up, so more volume.
I took Njoku late as he was that tight end I kept mentioning is like my favorite late round tight end, and that's who I got in my last draft, and so I'm a little bit panicking.
It's all right. All the tight ends suck.
But Andrew, to your point, they played the Cowboys. Cowboys, very good defense.
Diggs is back. That helps a lot.
I think you want to try to get these guys now because they are everyone's talking about how bad the Browns are, and they may be, but I think there's some.
They're bad. Yeah.
Yeah, they were very not good, but this is not a buy at his old cost, which honestly wasn't that high before. We were higher on him than most people here at Fantasy Guides. Not sure I want to throw that out there anymore, but this is a buy low. See the panic, take advantage of it. That's what week 1 is all about, guys. It's 1 week of fantasy football. If you had a down week in week 7, we're ignoring it. Steven, your guy, tight ends were awful this week. So you decided to pick one. Which tight end did you decide to go with as a buy?
I went with Mark Andrews, and the only thing that I had a hard time with this is I was trying to think of tight ends you could trade for Mark Andrews that had a big week, but none did.
Isaiah Likely. Hey, that guy had a big week.
I mean, you could say Likely.
Pitts scored.
But here's my point. Unless you get Isaiah Likely off waivers, so you have to first secure Likely. So maybe this is afterwards. I still think Mark Andrews is the tight end you want there in Baltimore. And I think there's probably people that disagree with that. Now, would I be shocked if I'm proved wrong at the end of the season? Not really, but I still think Mark Andrews is a good tight end. I still think, that car accident he had right before the season, which was kind of strange. And this, I also found Fantasy Pros had written an article about this, that in 5 games versus the Chiefs, Andrews has gone over 22 yards and 3 catches just once, and he's never scored a touchdown. So I think there's a little bit of matchup there. Now, Isaiah Likely is like, well, I see that, and I raise you with a 30-point performance. But there's been some history there with Mark Andrews not performing against the Chiefs. And from what I've gotten from people that DM me, I have an advantage because of knowing buys and sells, because I get so many people asking, what would you take for Mark Andrews? Tons of people asking that. People don't want him. So I do think you could get him for pretty cheap on just any player. I would start with any player on your team that did something and work your way backwards and just try to get him for cheap. Because I still think by the end of the season, I still think he's, he should be close to a top 5 tight end. I'm not ready to back away from that completely.
I'm with you. He ran more routes than Isaiah Likely. He was lined up in the slot a lot more than Isaiah Likely. And those 6 career games versus the Chiefs, he had double-digit points once, and it was below 6 in all the other matchups.
Yeah.
So he's just not good against the Chiefs, and they will be favored in all of their games moving forward for the most part. So
I think you can get him for real cheap.
Yeah.
I think what's really encouraging is the amount of volume that was there in this Ravens offense. And that is something we're not used to. And that was supposed to be the thing with Todd Monken. And last year, there was more volume, more than we had ever seen. Lamar Jackson, career high in passing yards. It was kind of a pathetic MVP season. So people might have thought he had a better season than he did, but he really didn't have that many passing yards last year. And this year, it looks like they're throwing even more. 41 pass attempts. Last season, he threw for over 41 or more pass attempts. Let me see. One time in week 14 against the Rams in that absolute shootout. And that was a bigger shootout than this one. So you should be grateful for the amount of volume that Andrews might get. There's plenty of room for Flowers and Andrews to eat. Isaiah Likely is their slot receiver. I don't view him as anything more. I think he is also slightly fool's gold on the waiver wire. Do not view Isaiah Likely as some top 5 tight end now. He's going to be in the top 10, 12, I think. I think that's really good, but I'm not scared off. I'm not scared off Mr. Mark Andrews. All right, moving us on. I had a tight end here. I just swapped it out, knowing that Steven already had a tight end. I'll drop his name real quick. Dalton Kincaid. I'm not panicking. Me and Jacob were just talking about it. He had one of his best route percentage participation games. It's just the Cardinals the Cardinals defense said, we're going to stop one guy and it's going to be that one. It's Dalton Kincaid. And so that's what they picked. So Dalton Kincaid, great buy. The buy I'm going to go with instead is Ladd McConkey. And this is not one I planned on having. In fact, I thought maybe Ladd McConkey would be a buy way further on in the season, but he got on the field. Ladd McConkey was playing not just in 11 personnel. There was some 21 personnel snaps where that means that there's 2 running backs on the field, a fullback, instead of 2 tight ends. So it's not 12, it's 21. Still 2 receivers. And McConkey was playing the majority of those snaps. The rest of this offense looks dreadful. We saw DJ Chark was a scratch, so he's dealing with health issues. So Ladd McConkey's getting on the fields. He ran the 3rd most rounds, 2nd most snaps. He looks scrappy and good blocking. He already scored his first touchdown in the league, and it was an awesome play. Like, he has this guy running at him. He makes one guy miss, the other guy sees him, and he goes from a standstill to another a little jump cut, and he walks his way into the end zone. And this team isn't going to pass a ton, but Ladd McConkey, I think, is going to be a lot like Jaden Reed last year. The route percentage isn't always going to be immaculate. The snap percentage isn't going to be incredible, but he's going to get enough connected to Justin Herbert, just like Jaden Reed was connected to Jordan Love. And we didn't know Jordan Love would be good, but we already know Justin Herbert's good. This is incredible. We should be ringing bells. And I'm not seeing enough love for young Ladd, man. And this wasn't some crazy shootout. It was the Raiders. This is a low-scoring ball game. They're going to run the ball a lot. Ladd McConkey, I think he could lead all rookies in receiving yards. Infinitely more yards than Mr. Marvin Harrison.
Infinite
yards. I don't think he leads in yards. I could see him leading in targets, but he had 39 receiving yards week 1. I think you'll be happy with Ladd if he gets in the end zone, and I think you're going to be quite disappointed if he doesn't.
PPR leagues. Receptions.
I'm curious. I didn't watch any of the live. I saw it like on Red Zone, and I didn't always have the sound on. So I was curious. Did they mention anything about Herbert and his foot, as far as like it giving him any issues?
They didn't.
Yeah. And my thing is, this game was, the Raiders could not do anything on offense. So the Chargers were able to stick to a run game script the entire time.
Well, they'll be able to do that next week and the week after.
They're going to have. So I think this could be, one of those, you'll know when to start Ladd. Like when they're playing the Chiefs, you probably want to start him for those 2 games.
You can start him next week against Carolina.
So I think it's one that he's going to be a decent flex play. I am worried that there will be games where the volume's not going to be there because Justin Herbert only attempted 26 passes in this one, only had 140 some receiving yards. Now I do hope that the efficiency goes up with the run being good because it wasn't great in this one. And it's his first game with a new offensive system. I wouldn't overreact to the lack of volume and passing yards yet because I think they're going to have their games.
Yeah, and it was like that for every team. There was no team throwing for a lot of passing yards outside of the Dolphins and the Rams a bit, but Yeah, I think the Jaden Reed comp is fair, and I think Josh Palmer is kind of like the Christian Watson of this offense, where he'll have boom bust type games and feel. But I mostly feel like if he scores, you'll be happy, and if he doesn't, the volume will be enough to give you like a 8 to 10 point floor, I think. But I'm not just overly confident about the ceiling.
I think I liked your Dalton Kincaid one better, Andrew.
I did too. I just didn't want to go double tight end. Let's give some people some more options out there.
And you hate tight ends anyway, so.
Well, sometimes. I'm always the one to punt tight end. But yeah. I digress. This year, tight ends, they'll bounce back. I'm hopeful for all of them. I about pooped my pants when I saw Kyle Pitts caught a touchdown. I was ready to get a parade ready to go. Kyle Pitts, man. And then he did nothing else. But yeah, whatever.
And he was wide open on that one.
Oh, yeah. That's all him, though. That's him. Yeah. Kyle Pitts being that good, being that wide open. Never think about it again. Stefon Diggs, Jacob, you have listed as a sell, as our first sell that we're going to talk about. And I'm pretty in on this. It depends how high you can sell him on, but tell us more.
Yeah. So speaking of touchdown or bust type wide receivers, I think Diggs is that guy. PFF had him. I saw 2 numbers. So he either had 9 or 10 air yards, but either way, it was not a lot of air yards at all. And he had 2 touchdowns on that sort of volume. It was 6 targets, 6 catches, 33 yards, but he scored twice. So he had a big fantasy day. But there's just no way that is consistent volume. Like, it's consistent enough yardage and volume and relying on those touchdowns that I can be in on Diggs as what he was as a low end wide receiver 1. But if you can get mid range wide receiver 2 value out of him, I would absolutely do that. Air yards per target rates per next gen stats. Nico was at 15.8. Dell was at 16.1. Diggs was at 1.6. There's no air on the ball when it goes to Stefon Diggs. It is shallow targets, and another guy that, like, if he scores, fine. There you go. You got a touchdown out of him. But I don't trust the type of volume that he's getting enough to be able to plug him into my lineups consistently. I would look to sell him right now.
He's old. He needs the help. They can't have him run so far downfield. He's 30. That's so old. Hey, Steven, old man, what you thinking of this one?
No, I'm not selling him. You kidding me? So I get the air yards argument, but the guy has now got the slot role, which I like how it was nice for Devonta Smith just a few arguments ago that he's getting the slot role. And then
but he's the number 2.
I don't think anybody else is talking about Rashee Rice necessarily selling him. He's got a slot role, and all he catches is slant routes.
Oh, those guys are both different than Stefon Diggs.
There's no Nico Collins and Tank Dell on the Chiefs receiver room.
I know, but there's a Travis Kelce. But my thing is, this offense is going to be good. I think Diggs is not going to burn you. Like, depends on what you're getting for him. If you can get a wide receiver 1 for him, great. But what are you trying to trade for? I think he's going to have his games. I think Nico and Tank Dell will have their games, but he's going to get the easy matchups in the slot. I still think, I'm not taking a 1-game sample size to say, oh, he's only going to get 9 air yards every week. I think this is why I'm more hesitant to do sells week 1 on players, because you can look foolish after just 1 week, because next week he could get, I don't think he's going to get the kind of air yards he got in Buffalo because he's playing on the outside a lot more. But I think he's going to continue to get easier matchups, easy targets around the red zone near the goal line from a very good quarterback on a very good offense. I don't think I'm looking to sell any of these Texans wide receivers. I think wherever you got them is probably good value.
I agree, and that's why I so want to hop in and say Diggs get rid of him now and fire sell, and you can't get rid of him fast enough. I can't, like you said, it's too good of an offense. Watching the game live, definitely a little concerned. You could watch it, like, he's just catching drags, but it's crafty. He'll catch some more downfield.
It's reliable.
I don't think you're going to pay off that
2 touchdowns is not reliable.
You're not going to pay off that wide receiver 2 price tag you had to pay. It's going to be back end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for me. That'd be my guess.
I think the other thing, 100% catch rate, I think that's going to be pretty sticky. I think he's going to have a very high catch rate. I think his ceiling's not super high. I think we all knew that his ceiling wasn't going to be high.
No, because people were telling me, Steven, what, you think he fell off? You think, people were thinking and talking about Diggs as if he was going to be the X receiver downfield. He hasn't dropped off. This is proof he has dropped off. He's in a role that is not as efficient. People thought he could be a wide receiver.
No, you acted like he hit a cliff.
Yeah, he's 30.
I will acknowledge 30 is not your peak. That's not your prime. But
Yeah.
I don't
old.
think we don't see 30-year-old wide receivers that were as good as he's been just completely disappear at age 30. We didn't see Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, some of these guys just completely disappear. I think where you drafted these guys, I think they're going to do similar things to what we expected and finish. I mean, you had Nico Collins as your wide receiver 9. I thought that was pretty lofty. I don't think these guys have that kind of ceiling in this offense. I think where their ADP was probably maybe feels about right. So we'll see.
I think I nailed it.
Let me give you some quick names because I like to give names when I'm saying to sell a guy. There's guys I think that had really bad week ones that are in for a much better season than Stefon Diggs.
Okay.
And some of those names off the top of my head are DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, and Marvin Harrison Jr. I feel like people are probably panicking a little bit on all three of those guys.
Yeah. I would be willing. I'd trade him for Marvin. DK probably. What was the other one that you mentioned?
DJ Moore.
Yeah. I mean, those guys are the number ones. The clear, I would say, well, we'll get into. We'll have to talk on another podcast about
just
DJ
some
Moore
names to try and go test the waters with those names out there and report back.
I like that a lot. Get Stefon Diggs a walker, and let's get Steven into his cell. Steven, who do you have here?
And apologies, I'm outside. There's a trash truck behind me at this moment. So
it sounded like
timing.
A train.
Just in time for this take.
It's a trash truck, but perfect timing. Okay, so my guy that I'm selling, and I still think this guy's going to have a good week next week, but it's Baker Mayfield. We knew that the Commanders were going to be a cake matchup this week, and they did not disappoint, and neither did he, finishing with 30 fantasy points, 4 touchdown passes, 289 yards. I still think Baker's a good mid-range QB2, but with a lot of quarterbacks that really bombed this week, I'm willing to, if I have him or if I get him off of waivers, let's talk Superflex too. Like, I want to move him to try to get some of these guys that are either injured or didn't perform very well. Like, I'm going to try to see if there's something I can do to get Jordan Love. Like, if there's somebody that drafted Jordan Love and now they need a quarterback, I'm seeing what I can add to Baker Mayfield to get him.
Especially with that Jordan Love. Love that take. Love that take. The injury came out. It's not a concerning long-term one, so that is an injury by the dip.
Yeah, and Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, even Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence.
Throw Joe Burrow in there as a cheap buy.
Yep.
Or Joe Burrow, yeah. Like, I would see what you could get for these guys, because now sharp leagues, maybe it's not so doable, but leagues where people don't pay as much attention to how bad some of these defenses are, this is almost a college secondary that Baker Mayfield went up against. This was
it's the worst in football. It's not even close.
Worst. And we said it going in. They were one of the worst. I posted about it, that he was going to have this big game. They did nothing to disappoint. I think this is a bit more of a matchup inflated scoring than it is indicative of how he'll be all season.
I totally agree on it was his best performance probably, or one of his best. I do think that he has some nice matchups coming up. Detroit, stoutish defense. It's not bad, but they're going to get scored on are the Buccaneers. He's going to have to throw his way out of it. We saw Baker Mayfield succeed against them in the postseason. Then you get Denver, not a great matchup. They won't have to score much. But then you get Philly again. So I'm not dishing him out for nothing.
No. Let me clarify that too.
Yeah,
you're right. He's got Detroit, Denver, Philly, and the Falcons. All good matchups coming up. So only if you can get one of these elite-ish quarterbacks am I looking to make that move. You could argue, like, you might as well just keep him versus like Jared Goff or Trevor Lawrence based on their performances. He might be in that same tier with those guys, but especially Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, players like that, I'm gonna see what I can do.
Totally agree there. It just, if you can him plus something, get rid of him. It's not like Baker's about to hit an MVP season, but I would not panic. Sell.
Or Dak Prescott too, if I didn't mention him.
Yep, Dak's another great one. He just didn't play half the game because the Browns, sorry Jacob, we're terrible. Good old Brownies are back. A guy who I think is terrible, not really. I don't think he's terrible, but I do think he's overhyped. I do think he had a game way above his skis, and he's going to hit a downturn. Xavier Worthy. Everyone saw it. Everyone and their mama turned in to watch Xavier Worthy get in his race car and zoom down the field. Oh, and he looks so cool. I am an Xavier Worthy certified hater, but I do know he does one thing well. It is get these manufactured touches and run really fast with them. And that's exactly what I thought he'd do. And I had him ranked this way of he's going to have a couple of big boom games, but he's also going to disappoint. And honestly, I think this is your best case scenario. You saw the way they used him. He played 63% of the snaps before Marquise Brown comes back, before Hollywood Brown returns. He's playing 63%. He's a rookie. Yeah, Vlad McConkey played slightly more, so it's not like a huge difference. But there's a guy about to come back who's going to play the actual receiver role that is the field stretcher. That's Hollywood's thing. It's his only thing. You're going to see him step in, get the field stretching roll back. That second touchdown he scored running down the field, that's Hollywood's touchdown next time. That is not Xavier Worthy's. That rushing touchdown, that's all him. But guys, I'm going to wrap this up in a bow. Xavier Worthy touched the ball 4 times, got 4 opportunities, and he scored 2 touchdowns. That's not going to happen again. Is Xavier Worthy going to score 36 touchdowns, 34 touchdowns this season? No. He's going to have to be efficient. I don't think he will be as efficient. He is the wide receiver 3, potentially the 4th target on this team. I'm not selling him for nothing, but if someone thinks he's a wide receiver 2 or better, you're gone, buddy.
No, I think he is going to be efficient. That's one area I will disagree. I think Jacob and I were talking because we had a prop bet of, 46.5 receiving yards.
Yep.
He got 47. So
there you go.
We did hit the over on that. I think, well, as far as like betting on him, if there's ever a line that's like under 50 yards, I'm betting it because he just needs 2 touches to get, because he picks up yards quickly. But I'm in total agreement, Andrew. I would sell him. I could see, literally, I'm not even exaggerating, I could see next week 0 catches. Like, that's the kind of game I could see from him next week. And then nobody wants him, or they want him for very cheap. I think this is that moment where you can get something maybe for him. Maybe a Lad McConkey or something like you had brought up. Or somebody that I thought looked really good Thursday night was Zay Flowers, who I thought looked quick as any wide receiver I've ever seen, or at least in the league right now, and just had a bit of bad luck. I would try to move him ASAP before week 2.
Jacob, any thoughts here on your beloved Xavier Worthy?
He's going to get manufactured touches every game. I think he will be boom bust, but I don't see a goose egg in his future. He's going to get those manufactured touches. Andy Reid is going to find him ways to get the ball.
Right. I mean, in
I don't see
PPR
goose
leagues,
eggs, but I do think you can sell him high.
You get a point for a catch, even if you catch it for negative 2 yards. Yeah, he won't goose egg on you, but he's not going to be in your starting lineup all the time.
Well, let's see. Let's do a name game, Andrew.
Yep.
Because I'm just pulling up ADP. Since we're only a week out, I think ADP is fine to reference. Right ahead of him in ADP was Deontay Johnson.
Now, that
Worthy.
one, I'll go Deontay Johnson, but I wanted to make him a buy. You cannot make Deontay Johnson a buy. No. I'd rather have Deontay Johnson.
Did you guys see?
I'd rather have Worthy.
I talked about it in the last podcast. All sports culture. Did you see their thing on Bryce Young?
No.
They had like a graph. You ever see those where it's like how to build the best quarterback? And it's like Josh Allen's arm, Anthony Richardson's legs, Patrick Mahomes' insight. It's all this stuff. It was how to build the worst quarterback, and it was just all Bryce Young. It was just a picture of him, and it was every attribute he has. And God, I like Deontay Johnson, so I'm not saying I wasn't in on him. I loved where he was going. I'm a little bit scared that this was tough. They don't play that well at the Saints. Saints are good at home, and their defense is good at home, but that was bad.
Guys, I would want over him include Lad McConkey. Brian Thomas Jr. was drafted after him. I probably
would be one I would target.
Yeah, BT was ranked well ahead of him for me, but I was super high on Thomas.
Who's out?
Keenan Allen.
No,
I would target Keenan Allen. I would. The guy still got 11 targets, unless this injury proves to be worse than, because he did get injured at the end of that game. He had Jacob.
Rome also got hurt too.
Keenan Allen had like a 48% target share.
Keenan Allen dropped a touchdown pass.
Yeah, he did. But he also got overthrown on one. So that's what I'm saying.
Because he's slow and fat now.
How many hot dogs do you think he ate before that game?
I don't know. I will agree.
One too many.
He does look a little bigger than I remember Keenan looking. But I don't know. 48% target share. Or what? It was in the 40s. I don't remember what the exact number
That whole
was.
offense was bad. But most offenses were bad week 1. It's a little bit of a throwaway. But
they'll do better.
I don't think Worthy's a must sell. But yeah, I think you could definitely sell him higher than what he's worth.
I think he's must sell in the regard of, I think there's someone in your league who knows the fast guy on the Chiefs who everyone watched is going to give you a haul. I
Sure.
wouldn't I don't think I'll ever drop Xavier Worthy, but someone will pay up for that man.
Yeah, this is just trading up. We're not looking to just get rid of him because he will have his games.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's a good flex play if you're like desperate for a week. He's a guy I feel good about being in my lineup. Like because he could have a 3 touchdown game. That's not out of the question.
Totally. I'm in on it. Xavier Worthy, bye, buddy. But hopefully these help you out. It is dangerous to buy and sell early season, but it's also the most opportune time. That dude who you're panicking on, he still has a lot of value. Maybe you ship him off. That guy who everyone is panicking on, but we think you should buy, go out and get him. It's one weekend, but it feels like an entire season. Gentlemen, we've done it. These little buy-sell episodes, we're going to tie them up in a bow, cut them nice and short. If you're saying, hey, where's the waiver wire stuff? I need that. My waivers go up tomorrow. Check the page. It's all going to be taken care of. You can see our suggested fab dumps, roster percentages. We're going 25 men deep. I was writing down the names of players who I wouldn't dream of putting on an article, but for you guys, I absolutely will.
I'm posting literally after we get off. I'm putting a bow on what Andrew sent me. We debated a couple of guys on there, but we'll post it here within the next 10 minutes. So
J.K.
depending
Dobbins.
on when you listen to it, you'll have to timestamp it.
J.K. Dobbins, pay up, baby. Alrighty, that'll do us here though for us at Fantasy Guides. That's Stephen Rippey. That's Jacob Rhodes. I'm Andrew Teuscher. Make sure you go and get you a Fantasy Guides draft guide for the season guide. Get all the stats you could ever need and more, and say goodbye to the friends at home.
Good luck this week, guys.